some updates. Everyone get that? Cool. So the video is now up on our resources page. Sorry for the delay in getting the consultant team together. It's just a little bit more complicated than we thought. We bit off a little bit too much. But I will say there's like 16, 17 consultants that have signed up. So that's awesome. They are there to help. It's just, we want to make sure it goes smoothly for you. So we're just trying to make it smooth for us first and figure some small details out. I hope you did your photos or figured out who or which products you're going to put on. And man, so yesterday Yubanet is Pascal from Yubanet is a member here at Sierra Commons. She and I are the only ones that have the combination to this place to just keep it sanitary right now, and we're kind of on lockdown at Sierra Commons. But Pascal was here, and she's like, you know what? For everyone that launches their store or significantly increases, improves their existing e-commerce, she's going to offer 2 months of free advertising on Yubanet. It gets 1 million page views a month. It's a $2,000 value. And so that's just an incredible opportunity to start some advertising, especially to the local audience. And we don't want to, we want this all to be good. So we're just basically we reserve the right to decide who's made significant improvements, who's launched the store, and that's kind of final. We will be as gracious as possible, but we also want to dangle that big carrot out in front of you as well. So I put a little tutorial about how to chat. Some people were still having a little trouble about how to raise your hand and how to chat and things. Hopefully that video solved the problem. Not all the interfaces are the same. So if that video said there's a button here and you don't see a button, poke around, you'll find the button. So with that, I want to stop the blah-bitty blah and hand it off to Corey. Corey is, I've known Corey for, I don't know, about 1.5 years now. He and his partner Abigail have a company called Marston. They do awesome technology work, really diverse graphic design, interface design, hardcore programming. They've helped a lot of nonprofits in our area, as well as for-profits. And surprisingly, when I was searching out for an instructor who knows all of these platforms and really could fill the need for what I'm looking for as far as curriculum to help this audience, Corey came top of mind. He's in Taipei right now. So there's a huge time difference, but he stepped up, he's here to help you. And so with that, I'm gonna let him tell a little bit more about himself and get this party started. So thank you, Corey.
Awesome, thanks, Robert. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Oh, sorry. Host disabled participant from screen sharing. Sorry about that.
Do I need to allow you to?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Just for speed's sake, right now I'm gonna say all participants, so go ahead, try it.
All right. Cool, all right, there we go. All right, can everybody see that? Just give me a quick thumbs up. Cool. All right, yeah. So hi, my name's Corey Richardson. Today we're going to be talking about e-commerce essentials, and why don't we just jump right into it? So a little bit of background about myself. I have a background in engineering, specifically focused on WordPress development for the last 3+ years. I enjoy front-end web development, web platforms, integration, and automation. My goal is to help small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses make money with their websites. I love WordPress, maintenance, hosting, and support. And those are a little bit of details about myself. So here's a quick overview of the course we're going to be discussing. all of these things in a good amount of detail, kind of focusing on choosing a platform, store design, connecting accounts, and whatnot. But yeah, that's just a quick overview.
So can I interrupt, Corey? It still is, the volume is just a little,
Gotcha.
little low.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll go ahead and speak. I'll hold this up directly and speak into the microphone. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Is that a little better? Okay, cool. All right, so first we'll go ahead and jump into domains. So, what is a domain? Why do we need a domain? Essentially, and basically because domains are a bit easier to remember than an IP address, which would be just a string of numbers, and something like Sierra Commons would be a lot easier to remember than that. And so when speaking about domains, there's a few different kind of classifications, I guess. With top level domains, there's the sponsored level domain, the generic top level domain, and the country code top level domain. So the STLD would be something like a .gov website. GTLD would be like a .com, .org, or .xyz. And then the CCTLD would be something like a .ca for Canada, .co.uk for the UK, and then various other combinations of letters for other countries. And this would be important if you're looking to expand into a market that's overseas. It's very important to have something that is international. But as far as where to buy domains, I have gone through many years of trying out different domain processors. You might think GoDaddy, Network Solutions, Domain.com, Fast Domain would be a great place to start looking for domains. But these websites tend to offer a really discounted price for the first year of like $1 or $2 for the first domain purchase, and then after the first year for recurring renewals, it tends to be a bit expensive as well. The privacy can be an added cost, and so with hover.com, which is the solution that I generally recommend, there's I'll go ahead and switch over to it, but it's basically just a $15 a month or $15 a year for renewal fees and $12.99 to register. So when it comes to domains, yeah, I thought I'd put together just a quick example, just something kind of simple as far as illustrating the different steps of the process of getting online, going through each of these steps, and that is kind of just starting a small bakery or moving a bakery that exists from offline to online. And so,
Corey, can I I'm going to just put myself in some of the students' shoes and ask some domain questions.
Yeah.
So if I have a website, sierracommons.org, and I want to start a Shopify store.
Yeah.
Do I need to buy a new domain?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's a great question. If you already have a domain, it is either worth looking into transferring it to a service that would be good in the long term, or just connecting that to your Shopify store. So that would be under the DNS records, domain name service records, and so you can update the A record essentially in most cases.
Okay, so I don't need to buy a new domain if I have one already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And if I do have one, I go to hoover.com. It's inexpensive, and I can search and find a domain I want to buy.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, so one of the great steps when you're selecting a domain is just making sure that it is relevant. And so yeah, kind of just when you're looking at domain, something like for the example that I mentioned, it would be a bit difficult to purchase a domain like bread.com, for example. It would most likely be taken by somebody else, and you can request to contact the person who owns the domain and try and purchase it, but that tends to be relatively expensive or kind of a process, or maybe you wouldn't hear back. So it's usually a good idea to focus specifically on what you're doing. And so maybe instead of selling bread, I'm selling sourdough. And so that would be something, to narrow down the focus. And so, yeah, when it comes to selecting a domain in this example, I'll just go ahead and select, Nevada County Sour.com, and that will be what we kind of stick with. So then jumping into hosting, this is something that you usually do not have to think about if you already have a solution, or if you are selecting a solution that has all-in-one hosting like Squarespace or Wix, for example, and I'll have some more information about each of these in the platform section. So basically what hosting is it's a computer somewhere that has a bunch of files on it, to put it very, very simply. And so there's a range of options when it comes to hosting, from customized hosting like Squarespace or Wix or Shopify that load their own kind of special software onto the bare bones computer to allow you to sell your products on their hosting service. And so that would be kind of the niche specific, but you can also purchase a bare bones platform if you were interested in doing that. Some platform, or as I mentioned, yeah, the platforms abstract away all of the hosting. And yeah, we'll be talking a little bit about that later on when it comes to selecting the platform. All right, so next up, after you have your hosting platform, you've kind of looked through the options, seen what's the best. I have specific recommendations for different platforms if anyone's interested in their specific use case. For like example, if you use WordPress, and we can talk about that more in questions. But yeah, getting into the sitemap. So a sitemap is the foundational structure of a website. And so it's basically a collection of all the pages that are visible for a customer or a robot to visit on your site. So I put robot in here because the sitemap is basically the interface that a website owner uses to communicate with Google to let any other search engine know what pages are on your website, what should they list, and kind of how they should list it. So that's the foundational place to start. And so we'll look at a simple and a complex sitemap. And so a complex would be, basically if you wanted to do everything, maybe you wanted to sell subscription courses on your website. Maybe, you wanted to have a testimonial section. You wanted each person to have their own account. You wanted to have a blog. And so you would need things like a blog archive where you list every individual blog, and things like a category tag post, which would basically allow you to filter the archive into, let's say we had, again, a bakery, and maybe they have different blog posts about rye. So you could filter the categories to look at all of the single blog posts on rye, or the archive on rye. And so jumping into the simple solution, which is maybe what you're looking for. We have the home page, the about page, the shop page, and then the shop archive, which would list all the products, shop single, and category, which would allow customers to narrow down their searches within the shop archive. And then we want to have a cart where people can add items to their cart, much like in a grocery store. And then once their cart is filled up, they can go ahead and proceed through the checkout, and they will be directed to the thank you page where you can put in a custom message saying thank you for your purchase. And so there's also a couple other pages, terms and conditions and privacy policy, which we will talk about more in a future slide. But as far as the sitemap goes, that's kind of just a simple way to get started.
Excuse me, Corey. So are you going to dig into some of the well, here's a question for me. I'm often confused by cart. Am I in the cart or am I in the checkout? Could you help wrap my head around that? Help me wrap my head around that.
Yeah, definitely. So the cart would basically be a page on the website, or with something like Shopify. The cart could be. I have a great example actually. That is, let's see if I can exit this and share my browser. There we go. All right, so I went ahead and just put together a quick just a quick website where basically just for sourdough, and just a simple website. So when we go to let me see the bread, this is just a basic Shopify WooCommerce integration where we went on Shopify, created a simple website or a simple shopping cart, and we were able to add a few products to our website. And so in this situation, the cart comes out above the main page, and you're able to add items to the cart on this page. And so right now we're in a time when the cart and the checkout are being blended, and we're seeing solutions like this. And so it can definitely be confusing, because there are people that are creating solutions like this essentially to help make the checkout process a bit more quick or more simplified. And so in general, this cart would be a page traditionally on the website where you could go to view all of the items that are added to the cart. And then once you were ready to check out, you'd added all your items, you could move to the checkout process, which would traditionally be another page that you could use to proceed to checkout. But in this situation, I haven't finished linking this up because they need payment information to process payments. But if you had linked up your payment information, you would proceed with the checkout. And maybe you're using PayPal, or we'll talk a little bit more about merchant accounts and different payment processors that you can use. But that would just be a very simple and very quick way to put a shopping section on your website, whichever website you have that allows the ability to edit HTML, CSS, and some other code. So does that kind of answer the question on? Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, for sure. All right, so yeah, we'll move on to the shop section. So within the shop section, I just went through the example and showed you a few different adding the products and whatnot into the platform, or adding the products into the cart and proceeding with the checkout. But within every platform, whether you're using Squarespace or Wix or WordPress, Shopify, whatever it is, you're going to need to go through the process of uploading your images, adding in a description, adding in a title to that platform, setting the stock limits, and maybe integrating it with different solutions, which we'll talk about on the last step of the presentation. So it's very important to set the product options, the quantity, payment info, how are you accepting payments, product variants, in the example that I showed, there were 4 different types of gift cards. Those would be considered variants, a quantity of $10, $20, $30. And then it's important to keep that product info up to date. So for example, if with the bread, somebody had purchased 40 of the 50 loaves of bread that I have available to sell on day 1, day 2, we would need to add the inventory back in, or look into a kind of custom solution that would automatically do that. But you would need to just make sure that you're keeping the product info up to date, so that people can purchase the products, and you're not you don't offer less products than you actually have. Great. So with the shop, a lot of these platforms do a lot of different things to simplify that experience for you in terms of integration, in terms of uploading. And so it's really going to be product or platform specific, what your needs are, what the process is for uploading to the shop and whatnot. All right. So now we'll move.
Corey, do you find that there's any, is it the more complex platforms like Shopify give you more options, like it's a blue or green or yellow a piece of clothing, as opposed to maybe Square Up, which is more simple? Do they all have are they all robust in letting you give details about the products?
Yeah, definitely. The different platforms offer different options, kind of depending upon their purpose, depending upon why these platforms were created. And so, like for Facebook Marketplace, for example, that was kind of more created as a marketplace to sell individual items. And so that is going to be really focused on you being able to upload a simple product, something like SquareUp that bundles in the merchant account that we're going to be speaking about that bundles in a lot of services into one is going to be a lot more simple and maybe like kind of best suited for somebody who's getting online for the first time. And yeah, we'll go into a bit more details about each of these platforms and their different the reason why you might select one over the other.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So yeah, now we'll move into the merchant account, and this can get complicated, or it can be very easy depending upon where you're at in your business in terms of how many transactions you're processing, how much monthly revenue you're processing, and whatnot. Up until about, I would say between $2,000 and $4,000 a month, and I don't remember the exact number of transactions, but about $2,000 to $4,000 a month until you're hitting that number, it might be worth it to just look into like a simple merchant account payment processor, like PayPal. That it's about 2 to 3%, just because all of these fees are bundled in, and it's no monthly fees that we're about to talk about. But in some cases, there might be a local bank that will work with you and has good merchant account solutions. It really just depends on your needs, your industry, and whatnot. So a merchant account is an account set up to handle the processing of credit card, debit card, bank transfers, or cryptocurrency, which, yeah, think Bitcoin. And it will depend upon whether the merchant account, whether they accept this or not. So when it comes to taking payments online, it might be a good idea to restrict to only accepting online payments. You can accept cash on delivery or credit, or check on delivery, but that kind of you open yourself up to a bit the potential for spam. And so if you're diligent about going through your inbox, looking at each of the orders, making sure, following up with certain purchases, or, making sure that you have a lot of spam blockers on your website, accepting cash on delivery or credit on delivery, it might not be the best option depending upon your situation. So there's a few different ways that a merchant account can take payments, and that would be through a credit card terminal, automated response unit, and payment gateway. So a credit card terminal would be maybe what you're most used to if you're already accepting credit cards within your store. Just the physical device within your store next to your computer that people can swipe or plug their card into, and it takes payments. An automated response unit would be something like a phone where you can key in your credit card information and pay that way. And then a payment gateway would be what you see on a website, and that would be the standard. If you've been on, I'm sure you've been on maybe like Amazon or some other platform where you can add in your credit card or debit card information, and that will charge your card. And yeah, so those would be the few ways that you can take payments through a merchant account, and it's worth checking whether you need all of these or don't need all of these, and whether your merchant account can offer that. So we'll go quickly through fees and talk a little bit about how to get an account, and I already mentioned a couple of other options.
Should we see that's a lot of info. Should we see if anyone, was a great time to ask some questions?
Yeah.
Just put it in chat or raise your hand. Just take a pause here to see if there's any questions. No? We're good to go.
All right, cool.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll go quickly through the fees. If you're selecting a simplified option like maybe PayPal or Stripe, you might not need to worry about all these fees. But if you're looking into a local bank, if you're looking into a merchant account that's in your area, if you're looking into any other option, you're going to need to be thinking about discount rates, authorization fees, transaction fees, statement fees. monthly minimums, batch fees, customer service fees, annual fees, early termination fees, and chargeback fees. And so there's, yeah, a bit of information that you can see for each of these, what they are. And I'll explain the qualified, mid-qualified, and non-qualified a little bit. Basically, the lowest fee that you're going to get, that's the standard. The mid-qualified is kind of a little bit more, and that can be a use case where the person does not key in their, or where the person, or the customer is keying in their credit card details as opposed to swiping or inserting the chip. Or maybe they're using a business card or a gift card, and those can have different fees. And then a non-qualified would be if they're going with one of those routes and not providing verification of their address or other information that's related. And then 6-year pricing, the most important thing with this is the Durbin Agreement, which basically limits the debit card fees to a certain percentage. And so debit card fees are significantly less than credit card fees. And in the other options that I mentioned before, the debit and credit are charged the same at about 3%, but within this example, debit card fees are 0.5%. So if you're accepting a lot of debit cards, that might also be a reason to look into a merchant account. And then, let's see. So I think if you've read through each of these, I think that you kind of understand what they're about, but I'll just touch on chargebacks a little bit. Because they're pretty important when it comes to online sales, and they are charged. It's about $15 to $30 fee, and it's charged when a customer has an issue with a transaction. They can reach out to the credit card company, and they can basically charge back the fee with the help of the credit card company if it's in specific scenarios. And the ways to avoid this would just be making sure that you have a clear that your transactions are showing up clearly on the credit card statements of the people who are purchasing your products. And most merchant accounts will talk to you a little bit about this as you're signing up, as well as providing a place that people can contact you for refunds, because it's better to accept a refund than to refund and get a chargeback.
So Corey, we do have some questions about the merchants. Linda, I unmuted you. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. I have an ongoing relationship with, it's actually my brother works for a processor, so I avoid the middleman, so to speak. And so I have really good rate. But when I've looked at Shopify and some of these other cart development, it looks like you have to use their processing. So you have to pay the fees to them, and I can't use my existing merchant account with the other company. Is that correct?
It will depend on the company. I know something like authorize.net will work with a lot of independent or merchant accounts that in different situations, but it's definitely worth contacting the merchant processing account or the merchant account to see if they have any solutions for Shopify, just because in general you should theoretically be able to make it work. In some cases, Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever will charge a fee for an extension to their platform to connect with your merchant processor. So it would be worth connecting with that merchant account.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that. I go through this with Sierra Commons a lot because we take payment from a lot of different ways and use different online platforms. And really what it comes down to, someone pays Sierra Commons $100, how much is getting taken out? How can I reduce that as much as possible? And so like Corey said, if I used Shopify, sure, you could use your own merchant account, but we're going to charge more. So you just have to figure, in the end, how much is this transaction costing me, because they're going to get you one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Did that help? Okay, Linda muted.
Yes, it did. Yes.
Okay, cool. And then there's a question about Wells Fargo as an option. And let's see. so this may be redundant. I have a merchant account for my brick and mortar shop. Can that transfer or share to the online shop? So I guess you could address that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's worth connecting with your merchant account to check. I've even seen merchant accounts develop, specialized software if the need is there. So if anything, if you request it, then you're just another person who's requesting that specific solution that's added to the list. And then once they have enough people on the list, then they will develop a solution for that in some cases. Were there, any other questions? Did I cover that?
Anna has a question, so I'm gonna unmute Anna. Seems to be a delay in my unmuting. Or maybe we're fighting each other with the unmute button. Could you go ahead and try to unmute yourself, Anna? There we go.
Okay. So I do like business coaching and consulting, and I used to travel a lot, especially to Europe. And right now I have to do everything via internet. So now I have got problem with payments, and I do this via PayPal. And I was wondering whether you have any recommendations on what can I do. So most of my clients are either US or Europe, but I also have like United Emirates or wherever, So what do I do?
Yeah, definitely. So when you're looking at taking payments from multiple countries, it's definitely worth looking into different platforms that are friendly within these countries in terms of fees. And that's usually what it breaks down to is the fee that they're going to charge you. Anything in a different country, I think PayPal charges an extra 1 to 1.5% for transactions that are conducted outside of whatever your home business is. And so it's worth looking into the fees, seeing if if that's an acceptable fee, or if you want to look for something that has a smaller fee.
So would you rather recommend credit card or PayPal, or maybe even any other method?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about reducing fees, I think bank transfer is always the surest way to reduce fees. But if you can't avoid the credit card, then just looking for a solution that I don't know about the specific countries that you mentioned, but different credit cards have different fees that they process in different countries. So it's definitely worth looking into if you need to accept credit cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
PayPal does offer something where you can do currency conversion, and then you can have that if you are doing a lot of transactions in a separate, one specific other currency. You can load up you'd pay the transaction, the currency exchange fee at PayPal, but then you have that currency in your bank at PayPal as credit, and then use the transactions that way. That might save you some.
Right. Okay. Thank you, guys. I'll have a look.
Yeah, and one last resource that might be worth looking into is Payoneer, P-A-Y.
This I don't know. Hold on a second. P-A-Y?
O-N-E-E-R, and then just .com. And I think they
Payoneer. Okay.
Yeah, that would be worth looking into.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have a look. Thank you.
And there's still a question about PayPal versus Wells Fargo versus Square. Is that just a matter of going to those sites and looking at the rates that they're charging?
Yeah, definitely. It's worth contacting support and seeing about your different situation to see what's best for you.
Great.
Cool. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to email. I came across this image, which is a great image from BigCommerce, and it's kind of just talking about the customer journey when they're visiting your website. So they'll visit for the first time, browse your products, maybe add a product to the cart, or to take and process the first payment. And so this is the part that I want to focus on the most: is what can we do to build repeat customers. It's much harder to get a new customer than it is to develop an existing relationship. So focusing on emails would be focusing on how can we create an email flow, an email marketing campaign that is not overwhelming, but also provides the information that customers are looking for. And so there's a couple ways that we can talk about email. There's you can separate your email from your host. This is specifically talking about your personal email or your personal work email. So for me, it would be Corey@Marston.co, and basically I separate the email out from my hosting, because that if one goes down, they both go down if you're hosting them together. And so that's just something to think about when you're looking at your personal email. And then there's transactional emails, and those are related to the platform that you're using. And most cases that we're going to be talking about, transactional emails are included in the platform, like Squarespace, Shopify. Wix will kind of include those with you, and will allow you to send out a certain number of emails depending upon how much you're selling and what your account settings are.
Yeah, Corey, I hate to interrupt again. Some people are having a hard time hearing you. I think that this works pretty good, but when you breathe, it's almost painful. So I don't know what to do about this. It's just if you hold it up when you talk, but then when you're not talking, maybe just put it down. I know it's low tech, but thank you.
I appreciate that. Maybe I'll hold it up to the side and like a little phone. Yeah. That way I'm breathing this way, but you can still get the audio. We'll try that. All right.
How is that, everybody?
Is that better?
Yeah, I see a couple thumbs up. So cool.
Okay, cool. All right. My mini phone. All right. So, getting back into emails, we'll talk a little bit about automated marketing campaigns and kind of what you can do to help with the automation process. There's different tools out there, and I found a great resource that goes into a lot more depth about email marketing that will be included in the resources, and it will basically walk you through selecting a campaign. And most of these email platforms integrate with whatever shop you're using, and in some cases you may not even need to automate marketing campaigns beyond your shop. It kind of depends on what your goals are with email marketing and how in depth you want to get into that. But so when it comes to sending different emails post-purchase, we definitely want to make sure that we're sending receipts, sending a thank you for purchasing. And then when it comes to local pickup versus shipping, with local pickup, you just want to confirm that they are getting the address of where they're picking up the item and the time. And with shipping products, just want to make sure that they are getting the shipping, the tracking number, knowing when it's being shipped and when it will arrive. And a lot of tools can help you automate this process depending on who you're working with in terms of the carrier, which we'll get into the shipping and pickup a little bit later. But and then post transactional emails, getting into email marketing, just making sure that you are being diligent about sending relevant emails. If somebody signs up for a subscription, you want to make sure that you are letting them know maybe if their card is being charged or ahead of time, and making sure that you have all of those details kind of set up. And so since these are automated, usually they're written once, and it's a good idea to consult with a content expert. And then as time goes on, as your business develops and whatnot, you can go back and edit those. But it's a good idea to spend a bit of time on those and make sure that you have those set up well. Cool. So next up, we'll jump into terms of service, which is very fun. So terms of service agreements can help legally protect you, as well as set out the rules that you and your customers will follow, limits your liability in the event that your product fails, and covers what to do if any legal conflicts arise. So I have a few different links that are great resources for looking at drafting terms of service, and there's free resources as well as paid resources to help you draft up your terms of service. For example, Shopify gives you tools to draft up terms of service, privacy policy, shipping policy, and whatnot. But it's just important to make sure that you're covering kind of all the bases. So for example, with intellectual property relating to your brand, you know, you work really hard to build your brand assets, to build your brand personality and whatnot. You know, it would be unfortunate for somebody to copy that or to misrepresent your brand in a way that you don't want to be represented. So if you are including these types of things in your terms of service, people will not be allowed essentially to misuse your brand assets. And next up, we'll talk a little bit about the limit of liability clause relating to your products. So that's just an area that you can kind of talk about, you know, what you're responsible for when it comes to your product, and what you're not responsible for, and how to go about processing any claims or any issues that could arise. And that gets into contact information. It's really important to put down your contact information so that if anybody has an issue, they know exactly how to get a hold of you and work through any issues that could arise. Talking about your payment terms clause, that is something that you can work or get the information from your merchant processor about. Where you can, the payment terms clause is a great place to put information from your merchant processor in terms of the currency that you accept, the how you process transactions and whatnot. And so with the returns exchange and refunds clause, it's good to go into a bit of detail here about what you're doing when you process a return. When you exchange, do you accept returns? Do you accept exchanges? What are other people doing within your industry, within your market? Is it common to send a return label, for example, with your purchase? I know that can be common in some retail markets, or maybe, you know, like my example with the bread, I probably won't accept returns for that. And this could be its own document depending upon what you need to specify. Cool. So that's about it for the terms of service. Were there any questions about that before we move on to the privacy policy?
I think we're good. And also, Veronica Monell will go a little bit, take the terms of service and privacy policy, revisit that as well. It's really important. So we're going to hit that up twice. I don't see any questions, so it's all you, Corey.
Great, cool, good news. Yeah, so yeah, with the terms of service, like I mentioned, there's free tools that you can use and paid tools as well to help you work through those. So next up, we'll jump into the privacy policy. So this is a document that describes how a user of a website's information is collected, where it is stored, how we handle it, share it, and protect it. And so we won't go into great detail about the CCPA and the CalAPA, but the CCPA is basically related to if you are processing a certain amount, dollar amount, I think it's like 20 million, then you need to report certain information. And so what the essence of these resources is to protect user data. So if anybody is giving you their information via a web platform, you just want to make sure that it's handled correctly, it's stored correctly, and by correctly I mean handled safely, you know, not being transmitted over insecure means. And a lot of these web platforms will take care of this process for you, but just make sure you're not collecting any more data than you need. And if somebody requests for their data or requests any information about how you process this, be sure to respond to them and let them know. And yeah, in general, it is best to collect only the data, only the data that is truly relevant to your business via your website. And I'll just touch briefly on the GDPR, which is related to the European Union and cookie data. And what cookie data is basically when you visit certain websites, they attach a cookie to your session, which can collect different information about how you interact with the website. So like Google Analytics is something that is often cited, that people put Google Analytics on their website, and that collects how people are visiting their website. Where are they visiting from? Are they visiting from Facebook? what buttons are they interacting with, different analytics data that could be relevant to each internet session. And so in Europe, it was recently passed that you need to basically alert users that you are collecting this data, how you collect it, where you store it, and whatnot. And the best practice with privacy is just to be transparent about what you're doing, where the data is going, how you're using it, and whatnot. And it's currently kind of a gray area within the United States, but if you are collecting that data, which there are tools to collect analytics data without cookies, and those are worth looking into if you are concerned about that, about still having data, but also not need the user's specific data. There's solutions for that. But yeah, if as well, if you have a user from Europe, that's also a concern, because they will also, the GDPR applies to European users who visit your website. So if anybody's purchasing products on your website who has European citizenship, it might be worth looking into. And yeah, so here's a bit of the information that you're going to want to put in your privacy policy. And yeah, I think just making sure that you're transparent about everything and just where to contact is the most important thing. If people can contact you easily, then you can usually resolve any of the issues that arise. And so yeah, that's about it for the privacy policy, and we'll move into shipping and pickup. So I'll just touch briefly on international shipping. If you're interested in international shipping, check out the trade.gov website. They'll have some good resources for importing, exporting, taxes, and tariffs and whatnot, and any other fees and ways to help you export your products. The first step to shipping is establishing your shipping policy, which we touched a little bit on in the last section. So I won't really go into it in that greater detail here. You may be interested in selecting a shipping software, which these can be really simple and included with your web platform, or they can get really complex. And so it depends on your needs, what you're looking to, basically what you're looking to do with your business, with your website, where you're looking to grow. They can integrate with your point of sale system and whatnot, and your inventory system, and it can all be in one if you wish to do so. And so I'll touch briefly on carriers, and in the resources there's some good links to the UPS, FedEx, USPS, and DHL websites for shipping calculator, for helping people get online, creating their own accounts. They can offer discounts for different, if you qualify for certain rates, then you can receive a discount based upon bulk shipping and whatnot. So yeah, those will be in the resources, and customs information as well.
Corey, can I pause you for a second here? I want to throw in my 2 cents, and then also hear from anyone in the class that has good experience with shipping. I've owned a product company before where did shipping, and nowadays it's, they click buy and they're expecting it to be in the mail like immediately. And what I found myself doing at very inconvenient times was, packaging one item and going down to the post office. It was a pain in the butt. Also, in doing the price calculations, like how much am I going to sell this product for? Shipping is a huge factor in that, and there's different ways you can approach that to, one, help mitigate the costs, and two, not wreak havoc on your productivity by having to stop everything and ship. Of course, there's fulfillment houses where they do the shipping for you, but then it costs more money. So really need to take that into consideration. And I'd love to hear from someone that does shipping right now and any insight they can give the rest of the class. Anyone willing to share? Either raise your hand and I'll unmute you, or just unmute yourself. Anyone?
Hi.
Hi.
So I've been doing a lot of shipping since, April. And I was kind of just guessing on the shipping. That's how I was doing it. I had no idea what I was doing. And then I got stamps.com. It's what I've been using now. And so I can just print it out from my regular printer on the packaging, and that's what's been working for me.
Cool. And can you let everyone know who sometimes it's hard to know who's speaking.
Oh, I'm Heather from Heather Yarn Company.
Cool. So how is the whole guessing working for you?
Pretty good. I figured it out pretty quick.
Okay, so it's educated guessing.
Yeah. So then stamps.com, you get an exact dollar amount right there. And it's much less than shipping through the post office.
Do you have a scale at home, or?
Yeah, I have a scale.
And have you found, as far as packaging, do you have any packaging hacks?
Yeah, I just got some cute packages off Amazon. And then I just gift wrap everything in tissue paper. And ship it.
And just out of curiosity, do you put anything besides the product in when you ship it? Is there a 10% off your next order or anything like that?
I haven't been doing any discounts, but since I sell yarn, I'll include a little cute button or a little tiny skein of yarn and a thank you card on the bigger orders.
Awesome. Handwritten. Yeah, that I've definitely heard that personal touch, the little surprise, the little extra something really improves the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth just doing a little handwritten note or a surprise. They'll love that. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to add something?
We've been using priority mail through the post office. Our product is chocolate, so we need to get it there as quickly as possible in most cases. But it sure is expensive, and it just bumps up the order. So I really would love to learn, other ways to have it be cheaper. I don't know. We do it through the USPS website to put all the shipping information in. So getting the label printed and put on the package is not that big of a deal. And we use the boxes from the post office, so there's no charge there. But we have to buy the packaging materials inside. And yeah, and then going to the post office, that's always fun.
Right. Well, maybe in our newly established Facebook group, we can share tips and tricks with each other.
That would be great.
I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Heather, go ahead.
I don't know anything about it, but just wondering if there was a UPS account, or does anyone do that work? Because UPS comes to our office a lot, and if we had an account with them, I mean, hypothetically, I'm just wondering if anyone has any experience with UPS, I guess.
Feel free to just unmute yourself if you want to add something.
Sorry, Heather, I don't have a UPS account, but my sister, Judith Berliner, does. And you could always reach out to her at Full Circle Press. She'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Sure. I have another question though. In buzzing around at sites yesterday, just kind of identifying ones that I admired, I noticed several said, up to $149, that it's $10 flat rate shipping. So I figure they've chosen to put on their site things that don't weigh, you're not going to put a chair on and say you're going to ship it for $10. but they must sort of identify the things that they could viably ship for under 10. And then over 150, they were saying free shipping. So that kind of seems like it would bite a lot into the profit margin. I saw it on several sites, so I didn't know if that's typical. Another thing I saw, which I think is really smart, because Robert, it would be my nightmare. People call and ask, are you willing to ship that? And that requires one of my employees or I walk down to the post office. It always is over $10, no matter what you're shipping these days. And that adds up. That's a lot of money for what could be a small item. So I saw on one or two sites where they said, we will ship Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons. And I thought those boundaries were so smart. Just saying, we're not going to ship every day. That's all. Thanks.
Yeah, cool. So there's a couple things there that I'd like to comment on. One is it's totally up to you to decide when you're shipping and what your shipping policies are. But keep in mind that almost everyone wants it now and free. You are competing online against Amazon Prime in some ways. So that is fine, but you're going to have to, there's a certain value that you're delivering, whether it's a perceived value, emotional value. Like Barry said yesterday, you're not, if you try to win on a commodity base, you're going to lose. There's too many other big players that are in the game. So what makes you special? And is that special enough to get them to pay the extra money to get it shipped to them? Another comment is that's what the scenario of running down to the store and losing money, that's what the shipping and handling, the handling part is like, oh yeah, it's free shipping. It's $20 for the handling, like really? I could, if you were the crystal shop, and I understand, you have to put it in a wood crate and that's a lot of extra stuff. So that part is the shipping. And then one last thing is the $150 and then free shipping. It may be more than just, oh, these are light products, it's only going to cost us $10 to ship. Businesses that really have their finances down understand what their profit margin is and their markup is. And so they might say, once, I don't care what it is that I'm selling, but after $150, we've made this much profit, so it's worth it to us to give the shipping away because it fits into our financial model. So it may be more calculated than, oh, it won't cost us money to ship this much because of the weight of the product. So those are my 3 cents. And there's some interesting stuff going on in, does shipping affect sales tax? I don't believe so.
Can you hear me? I have a question.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, so I run the Yuba Gallery as part of the Sierra County Arts Council in Downeyville, and we're kind of like outside of every paradigm really, and I'm trying to figure out how to best use my time right now. So I'm taking this course because I figure, oh, I'll learn something. Anyway, like we have so that's made here locally, but we only have the post office. And so it's like, is it even worth it to be thinking about putting soap in an envelope and going to the post office? Or on the other end, we have large paintings that are beautifully framed. And I'm wondering if there's some kind of template for a cost analysis or a time analysis, like how much time is this going to take and is it worth it? That's my question. Is that a question? I don't know. Maybe it's for
That's a great question. I'll try to tackle it the best I can, and then that we are spending some time in marketing in the next few days. So some of those are actually marketing questions. sending one bar of soap is a pain in the butt, and there's not a lot of profit in that. Sending a 1 month or 6 month supply, or creating a mountain self-care fresh from the mountains beauty package that has other components in it might be more appealing. That's a better story. And then the other comment I have is figure out what box you're going to ship it in, how much it costs, and then calculate it. It's really, part of it is just down to math. That's the science, and the art is how you're marketing and selling it. And
But we recycle everything, so we don't buy boxes and we don't buy shipping. All the artists in the gallery just bring all their stuff down there, and we have a room and we just throw it all in there and grab stuff, and that's kind of how we do it. Probably not very efficient.
right, so that if I was going to come to your gallery, I would so appreciate that recycled box, and knowing how you work and your excuse me, your ethics. But with shipping, it is, again, it's science. What is the dimension of that box? That dimension and the weight determines how much you pay for it. So if you ship a bar of soap in this recycled box that's huge, you're going to be paying a lot of money for that shipping. So the shipping part is a science, and you really have to nail that down. So when they buy 6 bars of soap, it barely fits in this box, but this box is, super cheap to ship. You might find, 6 bars of soap doesn't fit in this box, but 5 does. So we're selling it in groups of 5, because that 6th bar makes us go to the bigger box, and that eats all of our profit. So it is going to take some rethinking and experimentation on shipping, because it could make or break what you're doing. Cool. So there's some interesting stuff in the chat, and Corey, why don't you just let's move on, and we can do the rest in chat. And I think some of these other questions will be covered in the marketing.
Definitely, yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, so we covered the shipping software, the carrier, in terms of choosing UPS, FedEx, and then service level. I mean, that's going to be the what service level you're selecting in terms of first class, standard, whatnot. And I think that we covered a lot about packaging, adding the extra touches within packaging, maybe getting custom packaging and adding, maybe putting, marketing would be putting different things together in order to create if you have used clothing, maybe, for example, putting an outfit together and selling that as a package might be something that you could do. And then costs. Yeah, we talked a lot about costs in terms of how you're factoring those in, whether you're relaying those onto the customer, which would be maybe including, marking up your products a little bit and calling it free shipping, or you're splitting it down the middle and splitting it with your customer, or offering discounts. And yeah, we mentioned that as well. And then insurance is something to think about if you're selling higher ticket items. I think UPS and USPS offer $100 with their shipping service, and so that's something just to know that you have. And if you have anything that's priced over that price point, it might be worth looking into insurance. And there's a lot of good solutions that you can look at that integrate with shipping software as well. And then we mentioned fulfillment, and we can maybe we'll go ahead and move on at this point. But if anybody has any questions about fulfillment, I'm happy to answer those as well. And that's basically outsourcing your fulfillment to maybe a local distributor, maybe someone in the next state over who you can ship all your orders to, ship all your product to, and they'll ship it out for you. And they have all the sales channels and whatnot set up, so it can be a little bit more efficient in some cases. So yeah, now we'll jump into the fun stuff, taxes. Yay. So when talking about tax, we are specifically talking about sales tax associated with an online sale. So sales tax is a consumption tax, meaning that consumers only pay sales tax on taxable items that they buy at retail. 45 states and Washington, D.C. all have sales tax. And as an online retailer, if you are responsible for sales tax in the state, it is your responsibility to charge your buyers the correct amount of sales tax and remit the taxes collected back to the state. So I think everybody here will need to collect sales tax for within the state of California, and determining whether you need to collect tax in a different state would be getting into nexus, establishing a nexus, and it's just a fancy way to say significant connection to a state. And a lot of the time it might not apply, but here are things that would where you would qualify for a nexus, and this is a good resource when looking up different tax information. So if you have a location, if you have personnel, inventory, and I'll just touch on sales briefly because that's an important one. So basically, until you're making 100,000 within or 200 transactions, and this is just a general minimum number that was found across the different states. Until you're making that point, you don't have a sales nexus within a different state. If you have affiliates, maybe a drop shipping relationship, or you are selling products at a trade show or other event. So these types of things would establish your business as having a nexus within that state that you're conducting the business in. So
we do have
yeah.
a question from Christy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you haven't quite gotten there yet, but it's about the drop shipping. I do a lot of drop shipping because I do the design and then I send it to someone to print it, and then they send it from there to the customer. So that's one of the main reasons that I'm having so many issues with the shipping. When I was on Shopify, there's just pages of all these things you have to fill out for different states, different countries, different, I don't know, name it. There's something up there for it. So I don't know. I'm curious about that because you had just mentioned it, and that's my main stopping point, or one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me see if I understand the question. You're basically wondering if having a drop shipping relationship in this other state, does that establish you as having a nexus within that state to pay sales taxes in that state? Is that what I'm getting?
Well, that wasn't the question, but that would be eventually a question. Yeah. Like, so does that give me a nexus there? I don't really understand this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of, yeah, definitely a confusing topic. And I don't think I'm the best person to give you advice on this. It may create a nexus. It really depends on your situation, how many transactions you're processing, and the nature of the relationship. Do you have anything to add, Robert?
Yeah, I will say that when anything comes to, we're talking about terms of service, privacy policy, sales tax, clearly we are not, we're not the experts. That is up to your responsibility to really seek that information out yourself. I would hate for us to, say, we know all the answers to this, and then you're not charged, if it negatively impacts your business, we'd hate to do that. There's a link to the California Franchise Tax Board. I think that that's the best place to start. If you're selling items legally, then you have some relationship with taxes and paying taxes, and that's the best place to go, the Franchise Tax Board.
Okay.
Yeah, and if people don't, if you don't have a store yet, and you don't have a relationship with the California Franchise Tax Board, you can get something like a reseller's license, which allows you to buy things at a wholesale price and not pay taxes on it, which is an awesome benefit to you. So that's something else you could look into. So
Okay, I've got that written down and I'll check into it. Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah. So when you're collecting taxes, basically the process is registering for a sales tax permit, collecting the sales tax, and then reporting and filing the sales tax. And it's complicated because it varies from state to state, and there's no federal sales tax, and so the different times when they're collecting it, the amount that they're collecting it, whether you're being charged your state's sales tax or the destination sales tax, it can all vary depending upon the situation. So just worth looking into your unique situation for that one. Were there any other questions on sales tax before we move on to selecting a platform?
I think we're good.
All right, great. So so selecting a platform, our goal is to help 50 local businesses launch revenue generating online stores by June 1st. So some people here may already have an online store where people can go, and so if that's the case, just bear with us as we go through some of these basics, and it might even be worth looking into like a hybrid option, like I mentioned earlier, with Shopify, WordPress, or Shopify, Squarespace, Shopify, Wix, depending on what you already have set up and how much you've invested in your monthly costs and whatnot. So when thinking about selecting a platform, I came across this analogy, which is a good analogy for selecting a platform. So kind of thinking of it like choosing accommodation. You can crash, stay at your friend's or family's home. You can rent an apartment. You can buy a house. You can build a house. You can even build and sell houses to people. So this is kind of how that breaks out in terms of the different platforms. So a marketplace like Etsy, eBay, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon would be kind of like crashing at a friend's house or a family member's house, and you can always do that. You can always own a house, rent a house. You can have multiple combinations within here where you maybe rent an apartment on Squarespace, and you also connected that to Facebook Marketplace, or you're connecting your Shopify account to Amazon. There's different combinations within here. You're not limited to one platform, of course, and in a lot of cases it can be beneficial to have multiple platforms and multiple accommodation routes. So for a SaaS platform, which is basically software as a service, that's essentially renting. So for like a more premium SaaS like Shopify, and there's other premium services for shopping as well, just worth doing a bit more research there. You could rent an apartment, and that's usually cheaper. Squarespace and Wix would be a good solution for that. And you could rent a service apartment, and that's kind of like what Robert mentioned earlier, Square Up, and that includes merchant account. That is a good solution to kind of just get started. If this all feels very overwhelming, then this might be a good solution to look at. And then for anybody interested in advanced things, open source web platforms, and you still have to pay for maintenance of web hosting, but there's other solutions here as well. But yeah, I think we'll focus here, and if anybody has any questions about anything else here, I'd be happy to answer them. But in terms of starting, these would be a good place to start, a good place to get comfortable, and you can always grow into any other area that you're interested in. If you are interested, maybe you always have a Square Up and that's enough, and that totally works. So that's kind of the basics of thinking about selecting a platform. It is a pretty important decision, as you will be interacting with this platform quite often. In some cases, like with Shopify, you'll be needing to select and input your different quantities, update different things on a regular basis. So it's just worth playing with a couple of them and seeing what you like and what you don't like and what you're interested in using and what integrates well with what you already have set up. So were there any other questions, or were there any questions about selecting a platform before we move on to the theme and design section?
So
I had a question. I'm sorry, I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I just went and signed up for Square because Plumas Arts uses that. And is that the same as Squarespace? Is that a silly question? And I'm wondering, because we don't have a merchant account, we just have a regular business account at Wells Fargo. We've been doing everything through PayPal, but I've been recommended that PayPal, it might be better to switch over to Squarespace because I'm trying to build a website too. Like that would combine everything. So are you saying that the merchant account and the platform and all of these could all be found at Square or Squarespace?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you've got a few different platforms and they're kind of in these different areas, and it might be easier to combine that all into one solution. And I think, yeah, something like SquareUp might be a solution for that, where they kind of take care of the, you know, with PayPal where you're accepting money, they would do that for you. With Squarespace, which is your website. SquareUp offers a solution for website building, and so you could have a website and accept payments. And I think that they connect to point of sale systems, so you could take on-site payments, you know, down the road if you chose to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it does.
Okay, great.
So I'll take a stab at that too. So SquareUp is you go to a store and they have that fancy terminal, point of sale terminal, and you swipe your credit card and you spin it back around. And, you know, it's pretty slick. You know, if you go to San Francisco, like everybody has that. They also have a web building component that's really basic that shows your products and allows for transactions. Squarespace, the Sierra Commons website's built on Squarespace, allows you to build a website that's more robust and also has some shopping and e-commerce. It's a little bit more involved. I know there's a local restaurant that when the whole curbside pickup was, they had zero e-commerce and they used SquareUp, and they're like, here's, you know, here's a menu item, here's a menu item, here's a menu item, buy, pick up, done. So I think as far as complexity goes, SquareUp is more streamlined, and Corey, please correct me if you think differently. And Squarespace is a little bit more robust and a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, that would definitely be a good way to state it.
So since this is the kind of, at least in my mind, putting together the course outline, so you're here, you're going to start a store, assuming you're starting at ground, you know, with nothing. What do I use? Which option do I use? And my personal thought, especially in this timeline, is to go for one of the SaaS platforms, which, you know, is, I'm sorry, like SquareUp or something that's really easy to use, as opposed to a full WordPress development, or it's just, some of these are really more complicated. So Corey, if you had to say, like, what's the, you know, just get a PayPal button and put it on your website, use SquareUp, like what's the path of least resistance? I have very little, I'm just saying, I have very little knowledge of computers. I am nervous about this. I feel out of my element. I don't want it to cost a lot. I want it to be easy, and I just need to get something up and running. What, could you narrow it down?
Definitely, yeah. For somebody in that case that doesn't have a website, that just wants kind of the merchant account, everything kind of taken care of for you, yeah, I would suggest something like SquareUp or Squarespace for taking care of that. And with Squarespace, you will need to select a merchant processor that takes internet payments, and I would suggest something like Stripe or PayPal for that. And then if you have an existing website, whether it's whatever it is, I would suggest Shopify Lite, and that allows you to just put like I showed earlier, just put a shop on any page of your website if you're trying to keep it simple. If you're looking for something more complex, then that's obviously possible too, but that would be the simple solutions, or those would be the simple solutions.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed on something like Shopify, one of the benefits, and again, it is a little bit more complex. You do have to pay for it. Is that they integrate with social media. So you have a store with your 10 items on it, and then you're like, I'm going to promote this, my magical mountain soap package, and then it integrates with social media and it helps you share to those platforms. So getting the store up is, a big task, and then marketing it and getting people to buy is another big task. So, with the more complex platforms, it does make the other stuff easier for you. So I'd suggest looking into that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I just want to make just a quick differentiation between the regular Shopify platform, which is $29, and then the other platform, which is $9 a month. So it can be worth it in terms of cost as well. So yeah. Was there anything else for
Yeah, and one other point about the cost analysis, like, oh wow, I don't want to subscribe to another thing that's $30 a month, or this is, it's not as feature rich, but I'll pay less. Really think about, in the long run, how much frustration you're going to have and how much time it takes to set certain things up, because it's not included. Some of the things aren't included in the less expensive platforms. So in the long run, is it worth it to spend the $30, but it just saved me 4 hours of agony trying to figure this out because I can't get the darn button to work right, or whatever that is. Also in your big business strategy picture, you may decide for 3 months, I'm going to put $500 into this, $1,000, whatever that money is, and know it's an investment in your business, and you're not expecting on the first week for the sales to roll in and have a profitable online business. It takes a while to get it up and running. You're learning. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your business. So I think those are some of the softer points in trying to decide on which platform you choose. And there's some great chat too, so be sure to read up on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I guess what I meant was just Shopify Lite versus Shopify Premium. It might be worth looking at the Lite version before purchasing the Premium, because it's only $9 a month versus $29, and just to get you familiar with the platform before you make the big purchase. But yeah, those are all good things. Thanks, Robert. Cool. So maybe we'll move into store design now. So the first step of any store design or any website design really that I take, a project that I take on, we usually start with a style guide, which basically has all the small details, all the fun, what color is this button, what's the line spacing, what paragraph font are we using, what code font are we, all of these details are in the style guide. And the great thing about these platforms that we were speaking of is that they include templates, and these templates usually have these style guide parameters defined. So if you change a button in one place, button color in one place, from like an obnoxious green to maybe a darker green, then it will update across the platform depending on what platform you're using. So things to consider about design. A great e-commerce website should take a new customer who doesn't know anything about you at all to purchasing your product. What sorts, and then in terms, these are questions to ask yourself, what sorts of themes and templates are available on your platform? That might be something that also informs whether you go with Wix or go with Squarespace. How customizable are these options? How much customization do you need? Do you just need a simple website, or do your users expect to have a more customized experience? Oops. Templates should be optimized for search engines, loading time, social media sharing, marketing integration, mobile first, and accessibility. And these are usually things that are taken care of on the front end. And it's just a good idea to ask a developer, whether you have a friend that develops websites, just ask them to take a look at the theme and say, is this a good solution? Because you don't want to buy a theme that is not supported 3 months from now. And usually somebody can take a look at that and tell you if it's a good solution or not. And I'm available too as well if anyone has any questions. So in terms of design, less is more. Avoid pop-ups, windows, sidebars. The page should speak for itself. Everything else can kind of be a distraction. Just keep it, it's a good idea to keep it as minimal as possible, and not directing attention, direct attention instead of overwhelming it, and using white space to your advantage. There's different things to look into, like a visual hierarchy in terms of defining the most critical content first and displaying it clear and prominently. If you're using a page builder or any other template, just stick to the standards that they're setting, and making sure that you are using the template because you like the things the standards that they're setting, essentially. If you use recognizable icons and symbols, this allows people to easily connect and identify with the content with little confusion. And then, yeah, tell a story. Choose a template and design that reflect your brand and what you're selling. Branding should be apparent throughout your website. It should be consistent, and it should, whether it's online, in-store, or mobile device. And so when it comes to actually selling the product, establishing trust, making your content easily scannable, most people scroll through websites as opposed to reading it word by word. Dispersing your call to action so that there's not too many calls to action. If you have them all over the place, then that can overwhelm and kind of can confuse people. But if there's a simple interface to interact with your store and move through the process, then that is easy for people to understand. And that also fits into displaying your products clearly, making your products easy to find, and answering questions just upfront about the products. What are some common questions that people have? Can you answer that question at all within your product description so that those questions don't come up? And if they do, it's great to have a frequently asked questions section on your website for those questions. And then using appropriately sized, high quality images, just making sure that they speak to your products, to what you have to offer, essentially. And yeah, the bottom line is make it easy. You don't want to put up any barriers for people to purchase your product. That means offering the different payment options, and usually the platform that you're selecting will have those options available to integrate. Minimize the number of steps needed to complete checkout. Just making sure that you're only collecting the amount of information that's needed. Make registration to the site optional. Should you create a new account for every user on your website, and clear indications of when something's not working, and offer support. It's just a good idea to have at the bottom of your website somewhere that they can contact you and reach out if they run into any issues. All right, so we'll move briefly into connecting online accounts. So
before you move on, if you could, there's a question about, you had mentioned make the website scannable. Could you dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So you can use different icons, different header, larger header fonts, short paragraphs, different things as people, kind of scroll through a website to find what they're looking for. What would be called anchor points, different things that will kind of stand out, whether that's color contrast on different text, an interesting image, something that kind of pops to, hopefully someone will slow down as they see that, and then they will be able to read the text underneath and understand what you're trying to say, and then click on that button. But oftentimes people scroll through websites so fast that it's important to just focus on making sure that people can find the important things that you're trying to say. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, I'll answer it like, okay, people are looking at your store and their thumb is just, psh, 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 psh. That's what's happening. That's how people are shopping on your store. And something, your beautiful photo should make them stop and want to dig into it and see if they want to buy your product or not.
Exactly, yeah, definitely. All right, were there, any other questions about design and different techniques or tips? All right, we'll move right along to connecting online accounts. So the most important thing when you're considering creating a new interconnecting accounts is to establish how they can make your life easier and make sure that you want to use that technology and that you have the time to maintain that platform and that method of outreach. It's oftentimes better to focus on 1 or 2 social media accounts and make sure that you're staying up to date. You have somebody there to respond to questions. You are posting on it on a regular basis or interacting with people on a regular basis, than to spread yourself too thin and have 5 to 10 different accounts that you're not utilizing at all. And so it just, it's worth being choosy about which online accounts you use, because you will maybe eventually find yourself quite attached to that account in terms of the time that you're spending and resources you're diverting toward that account. And it's a good idea to make all of that contact information clear, using icons, making sure that it's consistent with your brand, making sure that it can easily be shared. If you're writing blog posts and you have a share button right below your post and somebody finds that they like the post, it's really easy to just click that button and share it in the situation where you set that up. In terms of etiquette and just be thoughtful about how you approach social media and other online accounts and technology. They're tools that can be used to enrich our lives. Nobody wants to be marketed to in a way that feels spammy, irrelevant, or disingenuous. There's no need to invest in a new tool if it doesn't help your business in the long run. Just use social media wisely.
Yeah, we're going to be spending a lot more time on that in the classes coming up.
Great, yeah. Cool. And a lot of these SaaS platforms have the ability to integrate with Facebook Marketplace, for example. I think Shopify does that really well, and Squarespace and other platforms. But it's worth looking into your platform as well to see whether, if you are using Facebook or Instagram, if you would like to connect it or not. And so one of the important steps within the process is testing, going through your site and actually trying to purchase the product. You don't want to be sending products to people and not getting paid for the product. It's just important to put yourself in the shoes of the user and see what the whole experience is like. It can be annoying and redundant, but it's definitely necessary. So just a final thought. We all build the internet together. Let's make it a place that we want to go and visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. That was awesome. You really hit a lot of points. So we do have time for questioning, and as you're raising your hands and getting ready to ask those questions, I'll ask Corey to talk a little bit about shopping cart abandonment and bounce rates and things like that, where people are like, oh yeah, I'm shopping, and then they're gone. That happens a lot. Is there anything people can do to help stop that?
Definitely, yeah. I guess, it usually depends on your goals, and if you're interested in setting up different campaigns where you can automatically respond to people if they have an account, and say, hey, you abandoned your cart, do you want to come back and purchase this item if they've added it to their cart? Is that kind of what you're asking about?
Right.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. So you can always set that up with the email provider that you select to respond to different people's interactions on your website, and that's something worth looking into if you're interested in in retaining customers that maybe will abandon a cart.
Cool. So for most of the class, it's been general information that covers general topics. If anyone has a specific question about their current site, Corey is the person to ask. He could probably answer those questions. And even if you don't have, if you don't feel like that relates to you, I bet you there's some gold in his explanation as well. So go ahead and ask some questions.
I have a question. Currently, I have a website that's 10 years old that one of my board members manages because she learned I don't know how to do anything. I signed up for Square. I'm planning to do all these things. Am I crazy?
Definitely not crazy. Yeah, it can be a lot to take on, take on a whole website, social media. Large companies have a lot of resources to dedicate to each of these specific things.
It's
accounting.
just me. I'm the Sierra County Arts Council. I write all the
Gotcha.
grants. I do the books. I do everything. It's managed 2 facilities that are closed. So that's why I'm here.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. That can definitely be a lot to take on. It's doable for sure, if you're sticking to the essentials and the bare minimum, but it can be a lot. And yeah, if you want to reach out, like I said, I'm available to look at your website.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And sorry, I just noticed in the chat, I'll go ahead and add my email address in there for people to contact me at.
I guess with an art gallery in a remote area, what are the alternatives right now? Business as usual is having some problems right now. And so it's a necessity. And it's a real problem, and it's a real challenge. So, that is why we're here to give you some of the tools. There are consultants to help you, and this group is here to support each other. And so hopefully that'll get you the confidence and the skill set to be able to take the challenge. So Corey, are you seeing some of the questions?
Yeah, definitely. I'm seeing a few different specific questions about viewing a website, just taking a look at it, and then test group the sites, customer feedback. I would definitely be willing to respond to anybody's individual needs, and look at your website and kind of give it an audit and see what can be done to help. I don't know if it would be maybe the most, would it be helpful to go through each of the sites now? I think maybe.
Probably not, but yeah. I do want to recognize what a huge offer that is, Corey, to go through people's websites and give them feedback. That's a lot of time, and it's just so appreciated that you're willing to do that. That's huge.
Definitely, yeah.
So Corey's email address is in the chat.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
This is Teresa. I own JJ Jackson's, a shop in downtown Nevada City. And the facets of, I have a website too that was designed by somebody else that I hired about probably 8 years ago. And I've never done maintenance to it. When I decided to quit paying her every month to maintain it, she sort of did a handoff, but I really don't do anything with it. These aren't my areas of strength. Mm-hmm. And so hearing all of the details of this today kind of feels overwhelming to me. Mm-hmm. Is it a total cop-out for me to consider hiring somebody to guide me through these things? Because I don't feel like I have the capacity to do all this. And especially, I want something that represents our store beautifully and is very indicative of our shop. I don't want to have something haphazard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, brand consistency is definitely important, especially when you're looking to get online and kind of take your existing store into this new wave that we're in. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of resources that can help as well as you know, myself. I'm available for hire as well, and I think other people within the Business Igniter course in terms of instructors can help with other specific items.
And that's what I'm expecting, Corey. I'm so grateful for all of this input, but truly for some of us, this is outside of our skill set. And yet I have a funny feeling too, Robert, that we're going to be introduced to other people who might feed us more information and that might tie this together. Is that true?
Yeah, so let me try to address that.
Thanks.
We have, you're not alone in this overwhelm feeling. It's very common.
And we want to do it right.
Yeah. So this is my suggestion is, one, ultimately it is your responsibility, and it is going to take a lot of work. So there are things that you can do that aren't coding necessarily. One is, okay, you're going to hire someone that's a great idea. Fantastic. If you have the capability and the finances to do that, yes, hire someone. There are professionals out there. But what you can do is establish a budget. You don't know what it costs, but you think, okay, I am willing to put X amount of money into this. So you'll have a budget. You can look on the web and say, I like that website. That looks really good to me. I would be happy for starters. I mean, of course, you're not going to go to obviously that's $1 million website.
Yeah. And I did that yesterday, and most were by Squarespace or by Shopify.
Okay, great.
But one that I liked most was Squarespace, I think.
Okay. So, so you did that. Great. You can go to Squarespace and you sign up. There's always a free trial, and you can start poking around and say, oh, let me look at the templates. What are the available templates? Oh, that's the template that store that I liked uses. I think that's the template. Oh, I like that template. Or I'm going to choose this platform because I like how it integrates with social media. Or I have this merchant account, so I'm going to just go with this one because so those are the types of decisions that you are capable of making, and you frankly are going to need to make those decisions. The resources that we have, like Corey, can just give you a quick, like, okay, I see where you're at. You can make this 1, 2, 3 changes really quickly. That'll get you a lot farther down the road than you are now. So just go ahead and make those. It's an iterative process, and it's not like, boom, I'm going to have this full-blown online store. It is a process. So taking those steps. The Small Business Development Center. Many of you have signed up, and I see Juliet, I'll get you in a sec. There can be advisors like myself and other advisors that could say, answer your specific one-on-one questions. We can't, the SBDC consultants can't say, here, let me do that for you. But definitely we could say, here's a site outline that as a site structure. Go get your 10 pictures. Here's a punch list of things to do, but we can't do it for you. There will be, and I apologize again about the Rebound consultant team doing our best to pull that together. There are resources and people that are willing at minimum to say 2 hours of professional time to actually do boots on the ground. Let me set up your email list for you, if that's what so you'll have at least some of that support. And then if you like working with those people, they may offer a reduced rate for you through June 1st. I mean, that part is like, you have to make a solid business decision based on whatever you make solid business decisions on. That's not, you know, it's really not our place to enter into, you know, the contract negotiations between those people. And if you like someone like that, hire them, look at their references, look at their website. It's always best to get, could you tell me another local business that you've done their website for? How much time do you think this will take? You know, get a general sense of that and then move forward. And I want this done by, fill in the date, and just do it. So that's my suggested process. So Juliet, did you have a question? I'm gonna unmute you.
Yes, I had kind of a comment, but possibly a question too. I run the Osborne Woods Gallery at the Miners Foundry, and recently we ran an online exhibit, which was a complete first. I just threw myself into the pool and started everything. When the Foundry closed down, we had to figure out something to do for the artists because we were a community gallery. So I put the main artists, the people who work at the gallery, we put their products online. I did. And then I put up the exhibit with 16 artists and video and information about them. I'm completely burned out. It happened within 2 weeks, like, you know, just going from nothing to doing everything. And now it's crazy. I'm not a marketing person, I'm an artist, so it's a little bit nuts, but I'm happy to have had this experience so far and want to know if there's anything that we can do or I can do to continue to help our site. We haven't had any sales. We have lots of visits, but I'm more concerned at this point about having people continue to visit the site until we can open our doors again.
Visit the just the general site or the Osborne Woods part of it?
The Osborne Woods Gallery's site has both a shop and an exhibit on it at the moment. I think that I got so burnt out by posting all the pictures of the things you can buy and the exhibit itself that I just thought, okay, wait, now I have to go and advertise. And I realize now this is a marketing question. I just answered kind of my own thing. This will be tomorrow probably, but I just need a little bit more help in learning how to market us.
Okay, well, help is on its way. We're gonna have, coming up, there are presenter Erin Thiem who owns a Outside Inn and in-town campground. She's a marketing whiz on social media. She's giving pointers. Adam Trowbridge is a little bit more on the technical nuts and bolts as far as SEO and sharing and doing advertising and that type of thing. And Mike Moores is a professional copywriter will help you write punchy copy and get people. So that's what we're gonna provide for you. I will offer up that a great, easy, high payoff activity for an art gallery and many other stores is, while maintaining proper social distancing, invite them to come into the gallery, use Facebook Live, and have them talk about that piece of art.
Good idea. That's a good idea.
I'm live, it's a post on Facebook, or you can do that on Instagram, whatever platform you're on. People love live videos.
Yeah.
You don't have to type things, you don't need to make photos, you don't need to whatever. And then for me personally, if I could see oh, that's a nice piece of art. I like it. I'm not buying it. Oh, I've met the artist. I have some connection with it. I understand this thing and it resonates with me on a deeper level. Okay, I'm buying it.
Okay.
So it's
That's
not
a great idea. Thank
it's
you.
not a sales, it's he's showing off the artist and the artwork. And by
Yeah.
the way, it's for sale.
Sounds-
And yeah, an awesome way to step up and you know, take on some new responsibilities that you're not comfortable with and nailing it. So good. Cool. Anyone else have anything to yeah, go ahead, Heather.
I'm wondering, so I use Square in my shop, in my brick and mortar location, and I'm setting up a Shopify account. I'm wondering if there's any way that I can link my in-store inventory to my Shopify page.
Corey?
Yeah, yeah, that should definitely be something that you should be able to do. I haven't set up that specific integration, but yeah, most Square, that should be definitely possible. It would just be worth looking into Shopify and Square and seeing what options they have. Yeah, they can.
So it's probably an add-on that can be integrated into the Shopify.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if it'll be a free or a paid add-on. That would definitely be worth looking into, because yeah, a lot of people within the Shopify community purchase or create extensions for Shopify to connect to different platforms. So that would be the best place to look under Shopify extensions.
Or what about Zapier? Do you think they might have something?
Yeah, it might be worth looking into. I don't know if they can pass that kind of information on, but it would be worth looking into and seeing.
Who is that?
Zapier. It does automations.
So Zapier, I think it is. And basically it's a software site that offers, I'll connect your MailChimp to your, eBay account. I'll connect this with that. I'll connect. So all these things that you have online, Zapier provides these little zaps that connect.
Integrates everything.
Integrates everything.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we got time for another question, or we could wrap it up. Oh,
Hey,
Paul has one. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. So I'm on the integration phase, and one useful tool seems to be Instagram shopping, where you can click in story and on post and go right to the store. So it cuts out all kinds of steps there. Instagram shopping's very selective about how its approval process. I'm having a lot of problems with integrating my Squarespace to be through my Facebook pick catalog to be accepted on Instagram shopping. So I think this is something useful for anyone selling physical goods that posts on Instagram. It's a direct to store, direct to buy link right on the post or the story. So maybe we can cover this if we don't have the info now in a future episode or something, but I'm struggling with that one right now.
Okay. Jennifer, I know that we've spoken about Instagram. Were you willing to offer up something?
Hi, sure. Yeah, I second what Paul said. I am not doing it myself, but I definitely have 3 friends that are just saying it's amazing because they often are watching people's posts and stories. They're interested. They don't always go over to their profile to then click on the website. But here, the little dot is just, you're able to just touch on it and it directs you to the website, which can then go way beyond the interest of even what they are clicking on, but they, start browsing your whole website. And then I did hear about the challenges from one friend. A couple people are doing it. Another person's going through the process of trying to get the allowance. And so it's on my list and I don't do it presently, but I'm thinking it's pretty if you're already interested in Instagram, then I think it's pretty good to follow through and figure that out.
So you are or are not making sales right now through that?
No, I am not, but it's on my list.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have a friend who connected and said it was a process, and they finally connected, and now they're getting lots of sales through it because it's like, wow, click in the cart, done. So
yeah.
Thank you for the info.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not sure how much specifically with Instagram, and Corey I think is looking for some links that we're going to cover in the classes coming up. But the main point is, where is your audience? Where does your audience hang out? If they hang out on Instagram, then that's, you know, where they're going to be buying. And if they hang out on Facebook, and, you know, really your store is just a place where they're making the transaction. And it may be on social media where they're actually finding you and you're selling them or telling them your story that they want to buy your product. So it is important to think, where are my people? Where do they hang out? Cool. How about one more and then we'll call it quits for the day. One. Okay. Well, I think we're good. It was such a good class, Corey. Thank you so much. And thanks again for offering up your time and your review to the students. And tomorrow is going to be another awesome day. I'll get this video posted and, you know, look for an email from me at 10:30 tonight. I'll be thinking about you from now until then. So have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.